You know, constellations have brought the ancient men most all of their stories and all of their myths together. You can see how you can see Taurus and the bull, and how you can get stories out of the bull. And in the Bible, there's stories of the bull, and a lot of the other ancient Sumerian tales and everything have stories of the bull. And that's, of course, during the age of Taurus. Like this right here could be something you used in to retell the tale of Leo, or during Leo. And you can see Leo here appears to be stepping on top of the snake's head. There's a bowl that's been turned over, and then there's a bird that's there. But without being a bowl, I mean, it's just dots. You can make anything you want out of this type thing. You could say that the lion is killing the snake, or he's the helper to help pin down the snake, while the bird is eating in him, and then the bowl is just little squiggles, so that's his children. So this could even relate to the story of how the eagle eats the snake's children, the ancient tale of the eagle and the snake. You know, of course, there's a bigger eagle that's not too far away on the zodiac, which probably really correlates to that. And like in the Bible, whenever it says the snake will walk along lower than the other creatures, here he is below the other creatures of the earth. And as he slithers along, he's going to be bruised upon his head, where he bruises the other one upon the heel. Well, what's coming up in front of him? Perhaps Aquarius or Orion. And is their foot even near? So you get all these correlations where you get things out of constellations. Where there's people depicted like wise men from the east, which from Babylon in that area would be aiming at Persia. And these Persian people riding on their camels that we all know the story of real well. You can look at one of my other videos I've got on just the three wise men alone. But they were known as magi. And magi is where we get the word magician from. But they also were really known as ancient astrologers. They had the knowledge of the stars and the heavens. They were storytellers that had the little tales that would tell you about how it works around and around. You could ask them and they'll tell you what time of year it was, how far away, approximately how many days it was going to be until winter started, so on like that. And through this knowledge, they were known as wise men. The other people didn't even know the zodiac. Like Moses referred to the people as being stiff-necked. These were people that wouldn't look up into the sky and see what the hell was going on. It's one of the reasons they had problems with their God. Where we generally think of and look at it as being a Star of Bethlehem must have been a supernova that happened and it was over Bethlehem, but that makes no sense, because if you were way over here to the right, then it wouldn't be over Bethlehem, it'd be way over to the right and you'd never find Bethlehem. Maybe that's the reason the three wise men were kind of lost and had to ask Herod for directions and so on. No, it was supposed to have been in the house of Bethlehem. They were on their way to it, and Bethlehem is actually a constellation. There it is, house of bread. Bethlehem means house of bread. And this is the constellation they used to have for house of bread. You notice that there's the Virgo symbol there. And so that's Virgo the Virgin. Well, we're talking about a people that oppress women. And so there's really no women involved. In fact, Aquarius is a man that's pouring out water, not a woman. The only woman that's involved is, oh, no, there's none. Yep, they got them all out. But here's House of Bread. So, you know, Jerusalem and Bethlehem were both star constellations, and there is one for David also. And so when they say from the house of David, you know, and from this, that, and the other, and from the age of this and the age of that, and Jesus telling you that he's going to be with you till the next age. See, in the Bible, they redid it as eternity. But if you look at the old Septuagints, that word that's right there is the same word that they use for zodiacal calendar age. So basically, Jesus is going to be with us until the next age. And it's, you know, 2,000 years-ish and a little more per age and stuff. And we're coming up on about 2,000 plus worth of, yeah, we're coming right up onto the age of enlightenment, where we're going to step out of this fog we've been in and again to the age of Aquarius, which is supposed to be of all new enlightenment. The ancient god Ea, or Enki, controlled the world then. He was the creator, and it was the golden age. And so here we are rolling back through the golden age again. The cusp of Aquarius happened right in the 50s, into late 50s, early 60s. And I think we can all look back now and see that the world changed right then. and that technology got incredible. Even though the industrial age was going on, things just seemed to accelerate and go through the skies. And right at that time, for the first time ever, maybe, the two giant world powers that were set to try to fight each other instead aimed both at the heavens and decided to try to go for a race of a moon. Instead of doing an actual war, they kind of seemed to try to do let's do an arm wrestle. No, let's try to go to the moon. Let's see who can go to the moon first. And wasn't that incredible? And it leads us to this day. And there is actually some credible to the three kings or the three wise men. There's a story that I have that's attached to my video. Look at it. It's the three wise men, and it shows you a lot of the other information attached to this. But they're also known as the three kings. We three kings of Orient are bearing gifts. Okay, so the three kings is actually, and you can look this up, if you look three king stars or whatever you want to do, it's going to show you that Orion's belt is actually that, and that they kind of line up and point at Sirius, and it's a star that's in the east, and no matter where you are, it's going to aim like this, and so it would lead you to Bethlehem perhaps. From where they are, it would line up with it. And then of course, if the planet Jupiter was to come and hover and do its recession and continue going through perhaps Bethlehem, and that's the king star, then boom. And supposedly there was a conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn at this time, and then Jupiter did a conjunction and boom, and everybody said wow. But also the real key point here is it's the end of a zodiac age of procession, and right now it's fixing to end the age of Aries and flop back one more like it does during procession and end up into Pisces, where Jesus becomes a fisher of men, and the first thing he does is calm the waters and get a boatload of fish for people. But the importance to this is a little different, because the whole allegory is really based on the zodiac and what happens. This is the sun, and it rebirths, and in its first inclination it was the Son of God, a reflection off of a bright golden coin. They referred to it like reflecting off of a shield or something extremely polished that you couldn't look upon God, he was too bright, but here's his reflection. And then the moon is a reflection off of that. The ancient Babylonians taught him that. In the Bible it says that it's a lesser light, but the Babylonians straightened him out and told them that the sun god Shamash, its reflection off of the moon, is what really is that. Kind of straightened him out about it. But regardless, what's going on here is this is the Son of God. Okay? God's Son. Okay? You get the idea? S-O-N. And he passed 1 year, and supposedly during the last ice age when he died, had to wait for his son, the successor, to come back, and his successor came back. His name is Mithra. But in this succession that happens, which is, I guess, their explanation for what happened during the ice age, where the sun seemed to go away from them for a long time, and the promise that it wasn't going to go away and stay away but come back happened every year. You know, kind of like God's rainbow. Whenever the storm god's rainbow, Yahweh, would go away, and there'd be a rainbow there. And of course, after a big storm, there's a rainbow, and that's his big sign. Well, here's this guy's sign here. That what happens throughout the year is the sun starts every day dipping a little bit lower in the sky and lower in the sky and lower in the sky, and it gets as low as it's going to get in the sky on December 21st. And it's winter solstice in the beginning of it, and it seems to stay still and not turn around and start going back up for 3 days, where it's said to rise again or resurrect and continue and be a brand new sun for us the next year instead of going on away. Okay? The description of firmament, too, I believe, is from the Ice Age, and it is whenever there's ice. And a people that do not understand that you can freeze ice, and it's firm water on the tops of the earth above and the other water below. So you get different views like that on things if you just start looking at it at the point of view of ancient men. And I want y'all to look this up and verify it. And I want to make the point here that this is nothing new at all. In fact, I'm telling you what the ancients knew, and that the Catholics and all of their crusades tried to kill out of people the knowledge of so they could go on with their thing. Here it is. There's a constellation in the southern sky known as the Southern Cross, the Southern Crux. Look this up, and it is approximately where the sun goes down. Depending on your placement, it's where the sun goes down and stuff. And of course, it doesn't go down as low as right on the horizon like this. It just gets to its lowest point. But at its lowest point, it's said to come down and die on December 21st. And so it's dead for 3 days, December 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, where it hangs on the cross. And then it arises on the 25th, reborn, just like Jesus. This is the Son of Man, and it was the Son of God, and his name was Mithra. And you'd say, yeah, they stole it from him, and I would say, yes, I agree with you 100%. They stole it from him, because Mithra comes from as far back as at least 1600 BC, probably somewhere around 2100 at the end of the Shamash era, way back at the end of Leo and the starting of Taurus, whenever they had a problem with the Anunnaki gods and stuff, and everything seemed to switch over there, and the god of grain ended up becoming Saturn, and a major god, Ninurta. But that's a whole nother video that you could look at, but it comes from way back then. You can look up this Persian god, Mithra, and find that he's known as Ahura Mazda, and all through the entire area of Persia, coming up to and peaking at 300 BC. Yeah, God dying on a cross 3 days and coming back, peaking at 300 BC, and all the way till about 300 or 400 AD, whenever Christianity gets formed and somehow it gets smothered out. And one wicked thing about it is, they say half of the Catholic churches that you can find across all of Europe, at the top, it's a Catholic church, but down in the basement is the original temple to Mithra. By using such star clusters as coma, like the Egyptians did, and their idea of creation and their forming of Adam himself. And I'm wondering if there's not a place that you could look around and find a tree and an apple and a snake. Well, no, you don't find a tree thing, but you could just point at a tree when you're talking about it as a story, or you're looking up at the skies trying to give people an idea. And yeah, there damn sure is a snake right near there. And there's another guy there. And oh, by the way, this also could be Mary and baby Jesus. And you see over here at the right shoulder, just barely that twigs of stuff, that's a man standing there. He's a shepherd of grain and our wood and stuff. And there's your carpenter. And so there's Joseph standing beside Mary as he, and yeah, there it is. There's one of them. I'm not going to go through the incredible trouble of doing it here, people, but you can easily see how perhaps that in the way of going around and around this thing, you could make up a little story out of the bugs, insects, pictures, and little things in the clouds that you find and stuff. Here's a horse, here's another thing. But you can take these dots here, and in the real world, there's actually other stars up here, and you could put a big hump on the back of this horse. That looks kind of like a horse, right? You can put a big hump on the back of that horse, and now it becomes a camel. And this could be three wise men riding a camel if you had it near Aries or near Orion and so on. And so you see how they're showing you how it pivots around here. And this is that wheel. And it travels like a wheel on a wagon. Whenever you're watching that thing like an old Western, it's how the wheel's going forward real fast, but it's slowly going backwards. That's the procession. So really, even though this is going counterclockwise, what you have is that it's falling backwards. So at first you have something like Taurus, and then it falls into the age of Aries, the time of war, and then we went into Pisces, the age of Jesus and the fish, and now we're going into Aquarius, and then Capricorn, Sagittarius, and working our way back around. And you can see these old depictions that are way back in Leo. So that's how elder this is. And so hopefully you can see this good. Some of my black on colors like that end up fuzzing out in my videos, only after they're processed. But hopefully you can see how here it'll show you that spring equinox way up here. about 13,000 years ago right now, about 12,680 years ago. And spring equinox, so that Leo and all these things that you see in these ancient Sumerian depictions of all the lions is the first thing, and then goes through the other ones, and then you see Taurus and Aries and so on, that was from back that far away. They would be, or leading into Cancer and how they had conquered Cancer, or ended Leo and conquered Cancer, much like you see in the Persian deities where they show you conquering the last one, i.e., whenever Taurus happens here, right there, where Taurus begins to happen, and that's about 6,500 years ago, that's probably somewhere around where the age comes in of Taurus, and at leaving Taurus, going into Aries, the next spoke down would actually be where the Persian god Mithra forms, because you see him killing the bull symbolically, right? You know, he's always, and then got his posture with his legs twisted in a way that looks and mimics the constellation of Taurus. I'll show you that in a second. But today we're down here at the bottom, just a little slightly left, I guess you'd say about 6:30 in the evening at spring equinox today, where we're at. And if you look, we're already cutting into the edge of Aquarius, and that's where the big change seems to be happening as we roll around through all these things. And we're far away from the bad side of it, coming into the good side of it. So ancient art quite often shows you secrets, and you see the posture of these guys' legs and the kick on them, and why they're all similar. And this is the three wise men, the three magi, and so you look, and their posture mimics that constellation, which actually is Taurus. Taurus contains all the others, and what everybody believes is a big thing, the Pleiades, about it would be his hill position where he comes and brings these things. And of course, this is the same posture you see in Mithra himself in his own depictions, that always have this leg kicked over Taurus. He's always on a bull doing this, in the slaughter of the bull, or the ending of Taurus. When you look through these ancient depictions of Mithra, you quite often you see that he's the sun god carrying the four horses, and he's got a crown that very much depicts our Statue of Liberty. And if you'll look into my Mithra video, it'll show you a lot more about this. But notice how he is depicting that same stance, that same leg kick. It's all over the place through here, where all these different reliefs have him all in that same position, and it's amazing. And well, here's one depiction of him, and that's almost exacting on our Statue of Liberty. That's where we get it from, that he is the liberating God. And there's so many correlations that bring this to Jesus Christ and everything about it. Even this little lop-headed hat here is supposed to be very much like the lop-headed hat that's on Santa Claus. If you just put a white ball on the end of it, there's your Santa Claus type of thing. That, well, he was a young god back then, but now he's an old man or whatever. But actually, that's a symbol of Cronus. If you look at my Christmas video, it'll show you that. Odd thing about this Mithra, this is Mithra here, and this depiction here is actually him getting baptized. They have very much a correlation to Jesus with it. This is Saturn, the god here, and the god of grain, who ended up, this is Ninurta, the god of grain, who ended up becoming the god of all, baptizing and getting a holy halo around Mithra, who is being anointed by the bird, who is Semiramis, signifying the trees of life that they have around this thing, and the 12 disciples. And it's quite uncanny, the actual connections to Mithra. He's said to have been a savior. He's said to have, that he's, because he is the new sun, that he's actually born of a virgin on December 25th, that he has those 12 disciples I just showed you. He has performed miracle. He'd be dead for 3 days, resurrected. Sunday worship, because he's the sun, was his day and stuff. So, the people in the Bible, by the way, if you look it up, actually worshipped on Saturday. They changed it to Sunday later, and Saturday is Saturn's day, so they're worshiping Saturn. Saturn is Kronos, and that's the god of time. that kills his own children and stuff, and Zeus gets away and causes the whole thing. So that's the god that they were worshiping, was that, and that's the reason there's so much child sacrifice and everything. And this was supposed to have been the savior for that. It said that if you worship him and believe in him, that you could have everlasting life, that he was an immortal creature born as a mortal. He was born on Easter, so it flips everything, but but he was born on Easter in an egg, and our worship of Easter and containing Easter eggs is attached to him. And the ancient belief of Inanna, where every year she comes on Easter as an egg. By the way, Easter is the time of year whenever the sun, having been at its lowest point in December, starts to rise, although darkness is more than there's light. And once it breaks 50-50, that's Easter, and you're at the spring equinox, and now light begins to be better than day. Light wins, yay, and including Jesus' ministry. That's where it starts at. Gets stronger through the summer, boom, and he has his ending and then resurrects and everything, and he resurrects on these same days. This is your correlation, and this is your Jesus. Because it's kind of interesting.
Today was also that time of year, but there was Mithras. Because the two of them are there. Well, there are amazing things claimed about Mithras, and I'll read you some of them. He was a savior, Mithras, sent to earth to live as a mortal, through whom it was possible for sinners to be reborn into immortal life. He died for our sins, but came back to life the following Sunday. He was born of a virgin on December the 25th in a manger or perhaps a cave, attended by shepherds, and became known as the light of the world. He had 12 disciples with whom he shared a last meal before dying. His devotees symbolically consumed the flesh and blood of him. Because Mithras was a sun god, he was worshipped on Sundays.
Is he a tribute band?
He was often depicted with a halo around his head. And Mithrists gave each other gifts on December the 25th. The leader of the religion was called a Papa, and their HQ was on Vatican Hill in Rome.
And you're not kind of writing off the chance that this was just a massive coincidence. And then one day they all went to the Vatican and went, what? Hang on. Right?
Well, a lot of Christian scholars have since been very angry at some of this research which came out in 1903 about Mithras, and they claim it's nonsense.
There's a few flaws though, aren't there?
Yep, there's a few flaws.
Josephus wrote that a woman named Mary, who called her son a myth for the world, slayed him, ate him, thereby turning him into a human Passover lamb. In the Gospels, we now have the Last Supper. Jesus tells his disciples, take, eat, this is my body, this is my blood, thereby turning him into a human Passover lamb.
And a lot of people back then had their own same beliefs that ran through their own little, hierarchy that they have with their gods. And they had gone through this fruition of the Zodiac and the things that happen, and they all seem to be about the same stories, ironically. And you find that Horus is, again, born on December 25th, of a virgin birth, from a star that shows up for him in the east. I don't know if it was a star, but he's adored by 3 kings. He's a teacher at the age of 12. He got baptized in the Nile, though. He started doing his works. They say ministry at 30. He started doing his works, and he had 12 disciples. But again, his 12 disciples were the Zodiac. But then again, so were Jesus Christ. People that are, I don't know how Moses put it again, stiff-necked, don't seem to be able to look up and realize it, but it's all the same thing. It is, people. It's all the same thing. Don't be all like, mine's real. Yes, they all said that about their own. They all said that.
Well, isn't that special?